Get back underway. I actually need someone to go and get me a coffee. Oh.
What do you need?
Are you sure?
I'll manage to avoid 5 minutes.
You can put it in.
No, don't worry about that. What do you want anything else?
No. I just need coffee. All right, we'll get on. Long black. So the deputy mayor's just gone to get me some coffee. But we'll get underway. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're an excellent deputy mayor. I just want everyone else to notice that's all you need to do to make me happy. All right, we're back onto the commercial chapter, and I know that we've got a number of colleagues who've gone down to Phillipstown School for the announcement, and I've got Ellie Jones will be away the rest of the day, and I think others are coming and going, so we'll carry on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was going to go into the commercial chapter and...
Yep.
Oh, look, I beg your pardon. Before we carry on, my colleague here was going to just say a few things about temporary activities and how we are dealing with them to kind of sum up what we've been trying to tell you just before the break.
Just very briefly, we have been requested earlier on in the process to look at how we might provide for temporary activities to carry on in a slightly longer time frame. That was coming from our discussions with officials at SERA. We looked at that option, but it all got very complicated, as we've talked to you before, in that it's very hard because all the temporary activities aren't the same. Yep. They've got different effects, and we weren't comfortable that we needed to write rules in the actual zone. So what we talked to you yesterday with Peter Eamon was we've put in that policy in the strategic directions, which gives some support for people to come in with their applications. There would be a policy there for them to sort of hang their hat on a bit, but we haven't gone down the track of writing specific rules into the zones to say, you know, in the residential zone, everyone that was a temporary activity can stay for another 2 years type of thing. A, because we don't know how long they need to stay there. B, the policy is to try and encourage them back to the locations where they should be or have come from. So that's where we're at. So
the two provisions are the effects on the surrounding community and the environment, the implications on the recovery of the district as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're happy to leave that at that policy level rather than getting down to writing rules per se.
Yeah, and effects on surrounding community, does that include amenity as well?
Yes, you asked for that yesterday, the residential amenity to be brought forward into that policy.
Yeah,
yes.
And that will be, yep.
I guess the interesting thing for that would be that, you know, if you look at, say, Sydenham and Beckenham combined, we've probably lost 40 or so buildings, and prior to the earthquake and Beckenham, those old shops, etc., they were cheap to rent, etc. Same as Sydenham. When you rebuild, the rents to cover the cost of the rebuild, because let's face it, no one really got great with the insurances, is going to be a totally different world, if you like. And it'll be interesting to see how many of those businesses could actually afford to return.
Correct.
So there's a whole lot of issues there, and I think there probably hasn't been enough work done or by whoever's meant to contact those businesses if they're now operating out of garages or whatever. Hairdressers would be an ideal. And we've got printers doing that as well, which is fine, but I don't believe many of them will be able to afford the new. I've talked to a couple of them, and they won't. They've said there's no way they could.
And that you've raised exactly that issue. We don't quite know how this is going to play out over the next year or so, and at this stage we're saying we're better to watch and see what happens, and then provide some policy or rule after that. In terms of the information we'll bring to you about all the information that's been done on the temporary activities, we'll bring some information. There was a report given to the Regulatory Committee at this last week from John Higgins, so we'll bring you some summary of that report that he provided to that committee as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I actually personally agree that it's probably better to have, you know, sort of a provision that allows for an appropriate extension, you know, or the making permanent. Yeah.
Well, I think it is better because it's great to see that we're aware of it.
We are, yes.
Because we're 3.5 years old, 3 years in, people are tired. Another times will be repaired fully, then there's a whole lot of
Yeah, no, that's right. All right, so carrying on through the commercial chapter.
Yeah, I was going to take you through the key amendments to the commercial chapter, and there's just turning to page 3 to begin with. There's an awful lot of red text here, and not all of what's in red text has changed. It's the amendments I'll point out to you, but for example, where we've changed one part of a paragraph, that whole paragraph has been amended to red text rather than just the change, so apologies for any confusion caused. The feedback we've had is that that the objective needs to reflect the objective title in greater respects. So the objective title is recovery of commercial activity in centres. So there's advice we've had that there should be greater emphasis to recovery. There's also feedback that the distribution of commercial activity should be reflected in the title. So we've done two things. We've captured in the first paragraph reference to supporting recovery of centres, but we've also we're proposing to amend the title, which isn't on the version you've got, to distribution and recovery of commercial activity in centres. So that's the first point.
Distribution and recovery.
Yeah, so the policy, the objectives about where commercial activity locates across the city. It's not just about the recovery of centres.
No, and in a way, you know, you're thinking about this as a plan that speaks in the present. We're not always going to be in recovery.
That's right.
So, I mean, I don't mind it being an underlying objective, but it doesn't sit with me as an objective of our district plan. It is an objective in the district plan review.
Yes.
In fact, it's a primary objective in the district plan review. But when we write the policy, we're actually thinking in the present, which is always in the present tense, that it is about the focus of commercial activity within the central city, district, neighbourhood, local and large format centres. I mean, that's where the focus of commercial activity will be.
Yeah, certainly. I was perhaps looking at it that the recovery of some of these centres is going to take potentially 10 to 15 years. It's a longer term process, but
I actually hope that our district plan might last a wee bit longer than that.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just, I just wonder if the objective is the focus of commercial activity, or it's the locus of commercial activity, or whatever. I'm kind of looking for a word that means that recovery in those areas is obviously the primary focus right now, but it's yeah. Anyway, I've just made a point, and you may or may not.
No, and that's precisely why in that strategic directions chapter there's that preamble that talks about recovery.
Yes, that's right.
There's some change to the structure of the objective in that previously there was the first point, bullet point A, about supporting the function of district and neighbourhood centres while giving primacy to the central city, followed by key activity centres. The previously worded objective didn't have that emphasis of while giving primacy to the central city, followed by key activity centres. And that's brought in to acknowledge the policy direction from Chapter 6 of the RPS and the land use recovery plan. But as I touched on earlier, whilst there's this policy support for the central city ahead of other centres, we don't, as staff, what we're proposing is that the central city is not treated as the only place that large business should go. We think there should be choices. And so in that respect, the rules don't necessarily give primacy to the central city, but if there was a proposal of such a significant scale that we felt should be in the central city and it was going to adversely impact on the central city, then this gives a hook for us to consider those impacts on the central city.
But this is what we got whacked for in the paper this morning, and got whacked for. Well, one of the opinion pieces today was, you know, again trying to prefer the CBD over other places, kind of a little bit too late.
It seems, because there was an article a few weeks ago about
It was the same guy.
Okay, but that doesn't seem to be what you're suggesting here. So we're not actually saying you can't develop outside the central city.
That's right.
Yeah, because the reality is, I mean, we have no idea what's going to happen in the central city, really, apart from some of the big box government projects. We could be 3 years down the line and people will still not be rebuilding in the city. So, you know, we have to be able to balance those factors. And at some point, land prices will come down, you know, demand will change. So as long as we have the flexibility, but I think maybe we need to send out a stronger message through comms or the media that actually we're not trying to restrict development outside the central city.
No.
Yeah, I think that and this was the point that Yanni raised yesterday, that we probably do need to make a better sort of public statement about why we're required in our plan to make provision like this, but that it doesn't restrict development in other areas. It doesn't restrict development to the CBD. It is simply a requirement of the Land Use Recovery Plan and the Regional Policy Statement. But what I'm a little nervous of is that the phrasing in the specific plan, which is the CCRP plan, is not to that extent, and I'm still not entirely comfortable that we've got the legal test right, because to me the specific overrides the generic, even though the generic came after the specific and should have referenced the other. So, but anyway, Jamie.
I don't know if there's ever going to be a perfect place for me to raise this, but I guess this is as good as any when we're talking about commercial and central city versus suburbia. And from going through this, you know, I of course, and I think every person that's in their right mind will agree with the strategic principle and the overall goal of having a strong heart to the city, and that is a goal for us as a council, and cities that work have got that. I don't think there's any debate around that. I see there are a series of sticks probably for suburbia or suburban development throughout this to a certain extent, and that's intentional. But I wonder more if, it's slightly left field, but something that I've been thinking about for a while is what we've seen and will probably continue to see is development in the greenfield sort of sites, because it's cheaper. People make more money out of it, and I don't think necessarily the Ernie Henches of this world that did Show Place did so because they wanted to do detriment to the city that they call home. They didn't do it because they hate Christchurch. They did it because you get a better return doing that than what they would have done if they'd done a development on a brownfield site within the 4 Avs. And I wonder if through this district plan review process there could be an opportunity of tipping that balance, because we talk about so many things, and there's good urban design, all that stuff is all really nice, but at the end of the day, it's the bottom line which is going to motivate development, really. And I wonder if we could explore some options, perhaps. Take outdoor advertising, for example. There is a huge amount of money that is made from outdoor advertising. I'm talking billboards or multimedia billboards, all that sort of stuff. And if you want to make something viable, you find an ability to generate an income from something. Is it worth exploring through this to perhaps say, look, instead of hammering you with sticks of things that you can't do in suburbia, perhaps here are more things that you can do inside the central city. If you're going to develop inside the 4 Avs, then as of right, you can put a billboard on the side of your building, or as of right inside the core, you can have a multimedia billboard. This generates hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, which is passed on, I guess, through to the tenants, and basically makes great developments happen. And it's not fat cat developer that just makes more money, and that would be the case if there was only one developer in town. But because there's multiple ones, then it's to everyone's benefit. Christchurch. So, do you think there's mechanisms perhaps that we could? And I'm sorry about that being long-winded, but I think you get what I'm saying around basically saying, as of right in the central city, you can do so much more. And yeah, it wouldn't be appropriate to have a multimedia billboard probably in Riccarton, but in the central city, we actually want a bit of vibrancy in life, and you can make a lot more money out of it, and it will tip the balance. So your cheap and cheerful greenfield development now actually looks pretty similar to investing in the heart of the city.
No, it's not out of the box at all. Indeed, that's what the Minister has tried to do with the CCRP, has tried to free up the city, you might say, with the rules that were taken out of the CCRP when it was first developed and went over to the Minister. A number of urban design rules were taken out and various other things. So that is the intention with the CCRP. This council can't change the CCRP as such, apart from if we make specific deputations to him and request things. But we as planning officers can't just rewrite the CCRP. It is going to come into the district plan, and there are already one or two things that have been raised about what we would ask the Minister for. But that is indeed the process that's trying to occur. Of course, we can't. The district plan is not an enforced document in the sense that we can make people go and locate and build in a place. It's only an enabling document. It just says the framework in which any building has to be considered.
Well, I think what Jamie's saying, though, is that actually the district plan is precisely the place where you can offer an incentive, which is not a financial incentive, but it's actually, well, you can do so much more if you locate your business in the centre of town.
Yes.
I just remember, post the earthquake, the ability for a small business to put their sign out on, Pages Road or out in, sort of somewhere away from their, directing people to their business being open was the difference between, survival or failure. And so I've kind of got a sympathy for the issue that Jamie's raising, that it's a mechanism for offering something in the CBD that is an attractive reason to set up business back there.
Yeah, Leanne's absolutely nailed it. And I guess what I'm saying is we only have so many levers that are available to us in local government. Like, let's be honest, if we wanted the central city to absolutely boom, we would say cost of construction is half price inside the 4 Avs. And we can't do that. That's not a lever that we can pull. But there are other things. And I'm just saying, potential revenue streams which you could say, do you know what? You can actually do this if you're going to commit in here, and that can try and tip the balance. So I think Leanne's captured it well.
Yeah, exactly. The district plan does offer, not financial ones, but does offer incentives. However, our jurisdiction is not over the central city at this stage, but it is over the rest of the plan and the KOC's
But part of our obligation here, and it's what we've been criticised for, and I'm sort of very alert to the fact that we've been criticised for something that's not actually our fault, but we're being criticised because we are preferring the CBD over the developments out in the suburban areas, which is not strictly correct, but but there is a preference, there is a primacy as it is stated in this draft.
Yes.
I'm wondering whether we should be putting together some of the ideas that councillors have around some of these, non-financial incentives that could actually help businesses make that decision to locate in the centre of town. That's using the district plan review in a smart way, but recognising that we don't control the CCRP area, but with a series of recommendations to the Minister. Well, hey, you can make these changes, and we believe that these changes would actually meet the objective that your land use recovery plan hasn't sought. And by the way, you better change that rule in your CCRP that says that we don't prefer one over the other. Yeah,
that can be done and would have to come through yourselves. Yes, but we could get together a document. The comments that have been made, we can write those up for you.
Well, and any other ideas that you have, because I know that you guys sit there and think about things like this all the time. And so here's, I believe, an opportunity for us to go to the Minister with a package that says, let's work together on this, because, actually the combined effort of the two of us focused on the CBD is going to produce a much better outcome than one of us doing it on our own. Yeah. Thank you, Jamie. It was very helpful.
In terms of Objective 1, Clause C is new in the sense that it introduces reference to the urban form that we're seeking, but also that we're not just dealing with nodes of commercial activity. They provide for a range of activities, including community and recreational activities. So people go there for entertainment, they go there for enjoyment and pleasure. So it's acknowledging not just the activities, but also that we want our city and our centres to be compact and to have a sustainable urban form, which isn't just about commercial, but about housing being appropriately located around commercial centres at a density appropriate to the environment around them. So And then clause F, which is about strategic adverse effects. The previous version talked about effects on the transport network, but it's more than just the transport network. It's about the wastewater capacity, the stormwater capacity, and so we need to consider in planning of new commercial development whether there's in fact the ability to deal with that from a wider infrastructure perspective.
But what's private infrastructure? Sorry,
that would be electricity networks beyond what council has responsibility for. Moving on to policy 1.
Yep.
There's reference now to consolidation of development within centres. So it's acknowledging that a key theme in this chapter is promoting intensification of centres to avoid them spreading and commercial activity shifting into residential areas. Very much about that amenity issue, but also ensuring that the land that is identified for commercial activities becomes more concentrated and that we utilise that land as efficiently as possible. This separation out in this policy of under clause A of giving primacy to the central city, but that was in the previous version, so I'm not going to focus on that so much. Clause B, rather than supporting and maintaining the role of district centres, which are the Hornbys, Ricketons of this world, it supports and enhances the roles of those district centres, so we want those to be enjoyable places to go that are attractive rather than just necessarily maintaining what's there now. So that's the clause E is highlighted, but I've reviewed that and there's no change from the previous version, so just ignore that.